everybody. Wanted to address the second question in the second article about academic motherhood, managing complex roles in research universities. And when I first began looking at this article, one of the first things that I definitely noticed in the article was that I felt like it was missing some demographics. When I looked at the demographics that were provided, I immediately wanted to know if these faculty members were married or single and the type of childcare that was utilized. And I would have also liked to have seen the interview guide that was used and the questions that were used. I almost felt in some of the things that they said, even when they were quoting them, that it might have been leading some of the questions. So I just really began to question it several times while reading the article that I would have just liked more information. Also, I noticed that they always took the standpoint that the woman's was not the primary income. They never seemed to consider a house husband, that the woman's role might have been the primary income and the primary profession to the household, and that there could have been where she wasn't the primary parent role as well. That was never once, and I realized out of the 29 people that they interviewed that was not the case, but it seemed like they didn't even consider that as an option either. So there was just some general reaction there that I just seemed like they made these assumptions in a way. So that was just my beginning overall reactions. But then I also thought that I know from personal experience, just like they had their own personal experience coming from a professional working woman who was climbing and striving during childbearing years, and actually came to the college as right straight off of maternity leave. So I actually took the job because I thought it was going to work better with my mommy job. I just kept thinking, wow, okay. I just, several of the things that I read in the article just kind of struck me as unusual. But anyways, some statements led to the assumptions that participants were married with professional spouses. And so I was kind of struck by the idea that they didn't consider some more creative child care solutions, such as nannies or au pairs. I know that was one of the things that I did. I knew that as my work demands grew and I wanted to be able to have working hours that were flexible, that might not go with the traditional childcare hours, I utilized a nanny. And I was just surprised that, some of the creative childcare situations were never mentioned in the article, and that the workarounds, it just didn't seem like the workarounds. Instead, it just seemed more of, well, this is what's causing stress. And so I don't know. There seemed to be some big holes there to me. So I want to address the actual part that was mentioned in the question, which was the satisficing. And I don't think this is unique to women. I actually often see that women who suffer from superwoman syndrome is what I call it, where they try to do everything and they're so worried that they're going to look inferior because they are women, that they would never do this. But men sometimes have no shame in doing it. So I actually find that sometimes this is something that I actually see more in males than females. So I think that everybody is guilty of sometimes doing this, maybe, but it's not definitely. I don't see it as just a women's issue. And I also think sometimes that this is a generational issue, that what I see from supervising people. And sometimes I think that some generations may think of this as working smarter, not harder. And so they look at it as, this is what I can do to get by. And so they actually, again, see no shame in it. So I think it's a very unique concept. And I definitely think it takes place, but I definitely don't think it's unique to women. And I definitely don't think it's unique just to working moms. In fact, sometimes, again, I go back to working moms. Sometimes they're so guilty of what I call the superwoman syndrome that they wouldn't do it in fear that somebody would call them on it or think that they're not doing a good job. And so sometimes they're the very people who wouldn't do it, but instead a lot of other people do it. So I found that very interesting. And in conclusion, I felt like there needed to be a lot more research on this topic. And I felt like a mixed methods would actually be a really good study for this topic because it could look for correlations that might prove very beneficial for like the type of childcare utilized versus the type of feelings that the women had, or perhaps married women versus the type of feelings they had, married women with what kind of income range they fell in, and things like that. This study did make me think of Mary Ellen's study that she did last semester. She did one on single women as students, and so this made me think a lot of hers, and some of the findings that she found as single women actually sounded somewhat surprisingly similar to these women. So it then started to make me think about that in general, just women in general, not just married women, single women. Maybe it's women who do too much. So some very interesting ideas and interesting concepts. And I think Mary Ellen is on this discussion board, so I can't wait to hear and look at what she had to say about this topic. And hopefully she chose this question. Thank you all very much. Bye.